You're listening to 5 Minute Feng Shui, podcast episode 198, The Feng Shui of Windows. Welcome to the 5 Minute Feng Shui podcast, where each week I talk about how to move energy and make money. You'll learn how to create a prosperous home and an abundant life using classical Chinese Feng Shui. I'm your host, Katie Weber, publisher of the Red Lotus Letter, Feng Shui Easing for Wealth. Each week, I'll cover Feng Shui topics that can help you improve your life, share inspiring stories, and always end with 3 easy-to-implement Feng Shui tips that you can put to work right away, and usually in about 5 minutes. Now let's get started on the 5 minutes that could change your life. Good afternoon, my Feng Shui friend, or morning, whatever time of day it is where you are. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Gosh, we have a beautiful rainy day and I love it. I love seeing rain. It's one of those things that we don't get enough of here in Texas. And so whenever gray skies gather, I get excited. Oh, maybe we're going to have a rainy day. It makes being inside so much more enjoyable than when you're looking at the sun and it's bright and shiny and you're indoors and you don't get to go and play outside in that sunshine. So I love looking out at this beautiful rain. And of course, I do love it when our grass is green and wildlife is being watered and trees are going to grow. It's all a beautiful thing. So I hope it's beautiful wherever you are, on whatever side of the equator you are. We had Halloween yesterday, and that was fun, and lots and lots of kids. Man, I can't believe how much candy we handed out, and it was over in a flash. We gave a 2 candy limit out, that only 2 pieces of candy per kiddo, and I kid you not, there was a 6-year-old woman who came trick-or-treating. Kid you not. And my husband told her, no, sorry, candy's just for the kids. Anyway, it's never surprises me what might come knocking at the door on Halloween. It's all kinds of crazy stuff. But we are going to be talking today about your windows, because windows are a big deal in Feng Shui. Windows have a lot to say about you and about your home, your life. And we are talking all about those glass panes and what they mean and what they're saying about your home, what they're saying about your life. And I think you're going to enjoy taking this new view of windows and what they can do and what they can't do and how they can influence you. So let's just talk about windows. So, obviously these are a natural part of the exterior of any home or office building. And if you want to look at it one way, and this is how I like to look at it, they're like the eyes of a building. So if you can imagine that, that's how your house looks out, is when you've got windows at the front of your house, that's its eyes. And those openings, obviously, like eyes, let in light and views, and without them, life would be dark and dull and depressing. But we don't want to have that. Fortunately, you've probably got lovely windows on your home. But having not enough windows is just as bad as having too many, because if you have a lot of windows, this could mean that, energy is running through your house really quickly, or you can't seem to grasp things, and you can't seem to get a good mental toehold on things that are going on in your life. And so for that reason, we want to look at your home's windows and how it affects your Feng Shui, because it can affect your Feng Shui and ultimately your life. Now, like all things in Feng Shui, balance is important, and the same is true with windows. Too few and it's dark and you feel hopeless. Too many and too large, you feel scattered, frenetic, and exhausted. So the key is always, as in Feng Shui, is to balance enough light and enough views with both privacy and exposure. Now, the type, kind, and quantity of windows, or quality of windows, like doors, will affect the type of qi that enters your house. So when the windows are too numerous, too few, too large, the energy of the house can be weak. Likewise, if you have plenty of windows, but their treatment influences the way they affect the qi of your home. So this can include the type of covering you have on your windows, types of blinds and curtains you have, if they're dirty, or if they're broken, or maybe you've got plants that have grown over your windows. You can also have windows that are failed. They are just fogged over. Many times they're double-paned windows that air has penetrated the seal so that the two panes are no longer sealed, and that can cause them to look frosted. They get that sort of foggy, frosted kind of look, and this affects your outlook. You're not going to see life maybe the way it is, or you're not going to have a clear vision of what's going on in your life. If something is not working in your life, it may be an indication you've got a broken window somewhere, or maybe you can't see your way past a problem. You can't find new solutions to the problems that you have. And many times when that happens, it's a case of shrubbery that has grown over the windows. I often find that people feel like their life is sort of shrinking on them, and that is growing smaller, and that they really don't have options. And many times what's happened is the house has plants that have grown around and over the windows, and this can make you literally feel like you're being closed in on. And you are literally being closed in, but symbolically it may feel like you don't have as many options as you might like to have in your life. I really want you to pay really close attention to your windows and what they're saying. So go outside, take a good long look around your house, really look at them critically. Are there some that are stained, that are dirty, that are broken? Maybe there's some kind of disrepair going on. Maybe they have failed, in which case you really need to get those replaced. If they're leaking, that's also a source of money loss, wealth loss. If you have windows that leak, and that can be leaking air or leaking water as well. The other thing is, if you can stand in the street in front of your home and see all the way out through your windows into the yard or garden behind your house, oh boy, that is rushing energy. It might be hard for you to hold on to money. You may feel like things are always coming at you, just one thing after another. Really take a good long look at your windows and see how they are affecting your life. So let's talk about windows and your feng shui. Now, when it comes to bedrooms, we don't always have the ideal placement, which is that command position. That means when you walk in the door, that the bed is usually on the wall that's opposite from the side of the room that the door is on, and it has a nice solid wall, and your bed is against a solid wall. Sometimes, in order to be in the command position, you need to have your bed under a window. And obviously, we know that that is not the most ideal arrangement. We really don't want to put a bed underneath a window unless there's just no other way to place the bed. In that case, though, you can place a really nice heavy drape behind the bed, and you can close it during the at nighttime. I really like seeing beds that look like they're against a solid wall. I often will recommend placing or making a window of, or a whole wall of curtains, and make it one solid wall of curtains. You can also put a big sort of maybe one of those folding screens against the window. Anything that you can do to make it look like whatever's behind your bed is more solid, the better it's going to be for you, the more supportive it will be for you. And if you feel like you're just kind of at it, it's all, life is coming at you one thing after another, and your bed is underneath a window, this could be why. Now let's talk about arranging your furniture. It's never a good idea to arrange furniture with the back to a window. So for instance, I just recently put up a post in my Feng Shui group page, and one of the things I showed was this beautiful, it was a little conservatory kind of room. It's one of those glassed-in rooms, and the sofa was positioned with the back against the big wide window instead of perpendicular to the window, so that you could have a conversational arrangement where both people at the sofa, or maybe sitting on chairs opposite the sofa with a coffee table in between, everybody can enjoy that beautiful view. You never want to have an open space at your back. So whether that's coming in from a door, or whether you have a big, beautiful bay window, you just don't want to have a piece of furniture where your back is to the window, because that puts you in a vulnerable position. That puts you in that position, I'm going to call it the standing in the ocean with your back to the waves. That we all know that is not a optimal location. That what can happen is you can feel overcome by things that you weren't expecting. Things come out of the blue that are shocking. And nobody needs that. We just don't need that. So avoid putting furniture with the back to a window. And this is will give you a much more strong feeling of being in control and in command when you can avoid that. Now, avoid window and door alignment. Now, this can happen. It can happen in bedrooms and offices and living rooms. Most of the time when it's really serious, it's when the front door and a back door line up. It's because what happens is when you open up the front door and that back door is there, the eye goes straight to the back door and the chi goes with it. That means your money is heading out that back door. So this is why we want to always place a block. You want a physical block. You can't just put, a couple of I don't know, a little plant there or a couple of crystal balls in between. It really is better if you can block the view from going out the door or going out a window, because what happens is it will stop your money from going out the door. And that's what we really want, right? Is we want money to come in the door, but we want to stay. We want to stay in our home and in our life. So that's why we always want to avoid that sort of door and window alignment. So you can do that. You can block that with a screen, maybe a tall plant. You can add a curtain. I think that always looks really terrific. And it's a nice way to pull the eye back up toward the front and not go out the back and out that window. Now let's talk about plants. Never let your shrubs and plants overgrow your windows. This really can affect you, and in particular that sector that it relates to. So for an example, if you've got an overgrown shrub in front of a window in the southeast well sector, maybe you won't be able to see your financial accounts realistically. Maybe you can't handle your money, or you're not seeing what you want financially. Really important that you keep all of the shrubs nice and trimmed, and that they don't grow over your plants or grow over your windows, because you're just not going to be feeling in control of whatever sector that is. So let's say you've got a northeast. The northeast is your mind and how you think. And if you've got plants that are growing over the windows and you can't see out, or what you see is plants, you're going to feel blocked in. You're also going to feel intellectually limited. Maybe you can't make decisions, or making decisions is really hard for you. That's important that you avoid having those overgrown plants, because they can really affect you. The other thing I want to emphasize is the importance of avoiding those vertical blinds, those big, tall blinds that many times go over patio windows. They really send out a harsh poison arrow and have those long cutting edges. If you've got a vertical blind anywhere, try to replace them if you can. I really like those panels that sort of stack. They slide out one from the other. I think that's a really nice replacement for those vertical blinds. Now, I understand sometimes maybe you're in a rental unit and you can't just go ripping those things out. I get that. But if you can replace them, do that. If you can't replace them, here's one word for you: curtains. Get some curtains and try to use those instead of those vertical blinds, because it's a lot of dangerous, long, slender, cutting edge kind of energy that comes out of you. Now let's talk about what you see out those windows. And I always want you to see beautiful views. One of the things that made my husband and me want to buy the house that we're in is it was an older home that needed a lot of updating. It had carpet that was stained from previous pets. Just, it needed paint. It needed carpet. It needed just pretty much a refresh in every way. And that was going to take time and effort and money. And that was something that I didn't mind doing, because the whole back of the house opens up onto a beautiful golf course, and we have these wide, spectacular views. We could have found a house that was in better shape, better condition, that we didn't have to put as much money into, but you can never overestimate the value of a view. We have the most spectacular chi because we have beautiful views out the rear of our home. So beautiful views are just so auspicious. I can't tell you what they do to lift up the energy of your home and your life. And I will tell you that every single day. I am joyous looking out that window that I have in my dining room, in my living room, in my bedroom, in my office. All of our windows all across the backside of the house are just huge and open. They cost a fortune to replace too. We just had them all replaced and it was a fortune, but that's okay because that view again is so worth it. And here's what I want to suggest to you. Maybe you don't live on a golf course or a lake or have an ocean view of Malibu. Not many of us do. But you can create views out your window. You can do it with beautiful plantings. You can create views and vignettes outside of your window. Even a small condo can create a beautiful little view from a window out onto a patio. There's lots of ways that you can create views so that when you look out your window, your eye lands on something that delights you, that's beautiful, and that has some scenic value to it. Because when it has scenic value, it has chi value. So always think about what you can do to enhance the views outside your window. Now, here's another thing that you can do in your house, and that is to get a beautiful mirror and hang it opposite a window. So if you've got a beautiful view, hang a mirror opposite that beautiful view, then you've just doubled that view. And that's a wonderful way to, like I said, twice the size, that beautiful view. You will make it's a beautiful addition. It's one of my favorite ways to use a mirror in Feng Shui is to double auspicious views. Let's talk about clean windows. Windows represent how we see our world, but they can also create health problems depending on their sector. Now, a broken window in the Northeast could be a problem with the hands or problems with decision making. You want to keep your windows clean and in good repair because they are representative of your health and your well-being. And when you keep your windows clean, it means that you're going to see clearly, you're going to understand situations clearly, you're going to be able to comprehend what's going on and take in your views of your world and see what's going on in your life in a clear way. You want that clear thinking, you want that clarity of thought and decision making. And windows that are clean and sparkly make all the difference. Now let's talk about the balance of views, light, and privacy. This is a big deal today because many houses, when you walk into them, I call them fishbowl houses, you open it up, you can see everything. It's just there it is. And while that's really nice, it's also a little off-putting to me because what it means it's sort of like you standing there with your kimono open. Hello everybody, here I am. And to me, I think a little mystery is a good thing. And having your whole home open up when you open the front door, to me, is one, it's sort of this rushing kind of energy. The other thing is it's a little bit too much exposure is how I would call that. So we want to invite somebody into our home visually. We want them to take a little visual path. And this is true of chi too. We want chi to take an energetic path, one that's slow and meandering, like a sweet little river or brook, versus a big rushing tidal wave or a big, huge one of those, like, what are those waves in Portugal and off the islands in Hawaii in the wintertime when they're just huge. It's almost too much, if you know what I'm saying. There is too much exposure. There is too much view sometimes. So I want you to be thinking about how you feel. Do you feel exposed? So for instance, I'll use my own house as an example. We have a home. Again, it was built for the views, and the people who built it made it so that when you opened up the front door, you had this big expansive view of the living room, and you could see out to the back and see the golf course, and there are two columns opposite the front door. And I kept looking at that thinking, I feel like I'm in a fishbowl. So that, when the UPS man comes to the door or someone comes to deliver something to the front door, if I open the door, they can see everything in the house or whoever's in the house. And so there's that feeling like we were in the fishbowl and not having that privacy. I have a neighbor who has a very similar house in terms of the way you open up and you can see everything. And when Tim and I moved into the house, I hung a curtain up between the two columns that when you open the front door, you see these two columns and then it's just this whole house. And I thought, I'd like to have just a little bit of privacy. We can still keep all the light, but not have all that exposure. And I ended up putting a wall up. It looks like it's always been there between the two columns. And what's really nice is now I have an actual foyer and energy can move in more slowly. Light is still there because we have big windows on the front, big windows on the back, so we're not blocking anything. But we also feel like we have this openness because you can move around the columns and there's still nice flow, but it's not as fast, it's not as rushing, and I don't have that exposure. My next door neighbor kept telling me every time he came over how much he liked the curtains and then how much he likes the wall, because he said, I just don't feel like I'm sitting in my robe. And he said, and his wife goes to answer the door. He goes, you just feel like you're just out there. And so he's always telling us how much he wants to build a wall in his house, but he didn't think his wife will let him. Anyhow, but that's what I'm trying to impart to you, is to look at your house and see, do you feel exposed? Do you feel like you'd want a little bit more privacy? It's amazing what you can do to build in a little bit of privacy, slow that your visual sort of speed down so that you aren't that exposed. It's not that rushing energy. You can do that with a curtain, a hanging curtain. You can do that with hanging panels. Maybe you put up another door, even having a round table with some flowers or a plant, something like that. There's a lot of ways that you can do that decoratively that will just kind of slow things down, give you a little bit more privacy, balance those views, and just make you feel like you have the right balance between openness and privacy. Now let's talk about balancing lighting. Everybody wants light today. They want big, bright windows. However, when a house is too bright, it can create tensions. That's right. There is actually something to be said about a house that's too bright, too open, because it can create too much tension. Whenever there's too much light, it can wear on your nerves. Just think about the pretty gardens and landscape and yards that you see in your neighborhood. Most of them are not just flat, bare, open patches of grass. They are gardens that have a balance of large trees, a smaller tree, they have grass, they've got shrubs, they've got light, they have shade. That is what we're working for. When we want to think about our homes, we want to balance our lighting too. Having it all too bright and light can feel a little exposed. It can also feel too bright. I know I live in South Texas, and there are times when it's just too bright. And that's one of the reasons we built that particular wall that I was just talking about, was because we have this big open window that is a big, huge arched window. And in the summertime, we face the southwest. The light that comes through there it's actually blinding. You could sit in the living room and you couldn't see the person on the sofa across from you because it was so bright. And anybody that sat with the light kind of at their back looked like an FBI informant. It's not a good thing to do. You always want to have your home balanced so that you have a harmonious blend and balance of light that feels bright enough that you can see and that feels open and airy, but not so bright that it's blinding, glarish, that it's harsh, that you can't see, that because you can make it so that you actually can't see when there's too much light. It's just like when somebody's shining a light at you, you can't see. You've got so much light you can't see. The other thing is anger can flare when there's too much lighting. When there's too much brightness and that glare, your nerves will be shot, your family can be uptight and just irritable, and the same thing can happen if it's too dark, just in reverse, and that's a depressive feeling, melancholy. You feel like, life is trudging. Nobody wants to be in a dank basement, but you don't want to be in the white, the complete blinding light either. So remember to use lighting as a balance. And you can do that with window coverings, blinds and shades, curtains, that kind of thing. Just look at how you can balance privacy and lighting so that you have balance in your home and that you also have some privacy too. All right, well, that kind of concludes today's podcast about windows. We are almost up to 200 episodes. But before I go off on that, let me leave you with 3 really important tips. Tip number 1 is always try to take advantage of beautiful views. And if you don't have them, create them. Tip number 2, whenever you have a view of the outdoors, look at placing a mirror opposite that to double that view, and it doubles the light and doubles the auspicious view. Tip number 3, never let plants grow over your windows because then it will block your ability to see your life clearly. All right, there you go. 3 tips all about windows. Get out there and clean them and enjoy them and make some beautiful views. Have a great week. I'll talk to you on the next episode of 5 Minute Feng Shui. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of 5 Minute Feng Shui. If you did, please be sure to share this episode with your friends on social media, and let's change the world one home at a time. For more Feng Shui information and inspiration, sign up for my free weekly Feng Shui Easy. Just drop by redlotusletter.com to sign up, and I'll be in your inbox every Wednesday. And if you like this episode, I'd love it if you left a review on iTunes. If you do, send me the screenshot of your review to katie@redlotusletter.com with iTunes review in the subject line, and I'll send you a free gift as my thank you. I'll see you next week on the next episode of 5 Minute Feng Shui.